Welcome to Growing Your Team, a podcast designed for small business owners seeking to grow their company with the help of employees and contractors. Your time is limited, which means growing and leveraging teams is essential for business success. The Growing Your Team podcast is the place to learn tips and techniques designed to help you know when it's the right time to hire, how to select perfect fit team members, and how to maximize productivity while creating a positive work environment. Drawing from her 10-plus years of leadership and hiring experience, here is your host, Jamie Van Kuyk.
Hello, Jamie Van Kuyk here, and welcome back to the Growing Your Team podcast. Today, we're talking about interview questions, in particular, creative interview questions. You know the ones I mean, the ones that test how much a candidate can think outside the box. Things like, if you were a crayon, what color would you be? How do you move a mountain? And fun questions like that. So, should you ask these questions during an interview? Let's find out. Back with my very, very first clients, we were preparing for his interviews with his candidates, and he sent me his script that he used for past interviews. It had about maybe 8 to 10 questions. 6 of them were these creative outside-the-box interview questions. I asked him, why so many? Or why are you asking these questions at all? And his response was, I really want to see how the candidate thinks on their toes. Are they creative? Can they think outside the box? And I was like, you need 6 of them to figure that out? You can have 1. In my opinion, you really shouldn't have any, but I'll give you 1. And that's what I'm going to tell you. If you really insist on having these types of questions, you get 1, no more than 1. But in my opinion, they're not always good questions. And let's dive into why. So the first reason that these questions are not always good questions is 1, they don't uncover anything that you really need to know about a candidate. So many positions where people like to ask these questions are not positions that require creative thinking. They're not requiring people to think outside the box or to think strategically or anything like that. So if those aren't required characteristics of the job, if they're not required skill sets to have, why do we care if a candidate has them? Why ask questions that cause stress and anxiety unless they're uncovering something that is needed from the candidate? So you got to think about it. What do you hope to uncover? And can this question uncover what you need? And is that skill set or characteristic an actual skill set or characteristic required to do the job? If the answer is no, do not ask these types of questions. If the answer is yes, once again, I'll give you 1, but no more than that. Why? Because they test a candidate's thinking. They also test, did a candidate go out, find a list of these types of questions, and prepare answers? It doesn't actually tell you how someone will perform on the job. So remember, the type of questions that really help you figure out can someone perform well on the job are the behavior interview type questions. Questions where you ask, tell me about a time when, or give me an example of, where you dig into specific examples from their past experience, because past behavior is the best indicator of future behavior. It doesn't mean that someone has to be in the exact same role before, because sometimes you're pulling out skill sets and things where they can give you examples from things of other types of work and stuff like that, instead of having it be that it needs to be this type of work specifically in this type of specific role in order to be a good answer. But you want to make sure that you ask good questions that uncover, can the candidate actually do well in this job? So if you want to know more about behavior interview questions, go back and listen to episode 23. Second, and this is the number one reason why I don't like these questions, is they actually pit extroverts against introverts. And what do I mean by this? Well, let's look at the very basics of an extrovert and an introvert. One of the defining characteristics is extroverts think out loud, introverts process internally. One of the things people look for with this type of interview question is the candidate's thought process. They're like, it doesn't matter what they say, how they would answer, or like going back to the what color crayon would you be, it doesn't matter what color they pick. It is their thought process that makes the difference. That's what we're measuring. But how can you measure an introvert's thought process if they think internally, if they think in their head? Some people need time to process things. And that doesn't make them a bad team member. A team member that needs just that little bit of extra time to get their thoughts together, you could look at to say, oh, well, they can't think outside the box. They can't think strategically. So I guess they're a no for this question. Where an extrovert can be thinking out loud, their thought process be kind of like all scattered all over the place. But you're like, hey, they talked us through it. We knew what was going on in their head, which means they can think through things. Not really. It just means that they talk out loud, that they think out loud. So you need to make sure that you're asking questions that uncover what is needed. Once again, introverts think internally. They think in their head. Extroverts think out loud. So when you ask these questions where they're not pulling up experiences and stuff that they really know, people need time to think. So measuring how someone thinks out loud and comparing that to someone who thinks internally, thinks in their head, and saying that one way is better than the other means that you might end up with a team of all extroverts and you're eliminating introverts who could be amazing for your company. If you go back and listen to episode 94 with Josh Little, we talk a lot about this extrovert versus introvert and how introverts need time to process. So go back and listen to that so you can understand a little bit more about how expecting people to respond and have an answer right away could actually be harmful to your team and its effectiveness. So to wrap up for today, in most cases, asking questions, these outside the box, creative thinking, supposedly strategic thinking questions do not work. They are not right to ask in majority of interviews, and they hardly uncover things of value that will help you determine if a candidate is right for your position. So if a question's not going to uncover the right things, don't waste your time asking them. Select better interview questions. And if you need help figuring out what to ask, growing your team can help. Every question you ask during an interview should get you one step closer to making the right decision. So don't waste your time and don't waste your candidate's time asking questions that do not matter. Instead, ask questions that provide value and help you easily identify who you should hire every time. Are you ready to hire a new team member for your business and you want to ensure you hire the person who can succeed in the role, make you happy, and positively impact your bottom line? Then set up time and let's talk, because this is exactly how I help business owners like you. When you go through my hire framework, not only will you learn how to attract candidates who have the passion you desire, but you'll be able to identify and select candidates who have the skills you need and can succeed in the role. Going through this consulting process not only helps you find the right new hire for your current open position, but it teaches you how to repeat this process with every new position you add to your company as it continues to grow. So if you're a small business owner who is ready to hire, has a rough idea of the position you need to add, and you're tired of going through the hiring process only to end up with bad fitting team members, then let's talk. Send me an email at jamie@growingyourteam.com. That's Jamie, Jamie, @growingyourteam.com, or head on over to growingyourteam.com/jumpstart and let's talk about your hiring needs.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Growing Your Team with your host, Jamie Van Kuyk. Be sure to subscribe and head on over to growingyourteam.com to connect, access the show notes, and discover more ways to hire and leverage your perfect fit team.